continue with part 3 of our Snap Material Special, as Evan and myself talk about the upcoming Days of Future Past season that went live on March 6th, 2023. We talk about the card releases and locations for the season, and maybe a little strategy as well. Let's go! All right, well, let's go ahead. We will jump into this upcoming season, which is, hey, X-Men fans, it's Days of Future Past. I did not expect them to go this route.
I was a little surprised too, but that's because you and I lived through, what was it, basically a decade where outside of the comics, Marvel tried really hard not to acknowledge the X-Men or the Fantastic Four.
Right.
I mean, yeah, Days of Future Past came out, and did you get any merchandise to go with that?
Afraid not.
No. Which, I mean, I get it to a certain extent, but I don't know. I mean, you and I were, in the thick of reading comics when X-Men was the thing. I mean, even Spider-Man, they put the non-mutant superhero on his cover just so the word mutant could be on it.
That's right.
At least that's the impression I got. And now, I mean, it's, I'm like, you guys don't understand. Like, isn't Iron Man great? I'm like, yeah. And I knew one guy that liked Iron Man for 20 years.
Right, dude.
I love the Iron Man movies. It's fantastic, but it still boggles my mind. I'm like, did you guys know that Tony Stark went crazy and killed some people and was replaced by a teenager and nobody noticed or cared?
They have no idea, Evan. They have none.
It's cool. And they've also got a couple things, we'll touch on later, but with some of the modern X-Men stuff, the Krakoa era, which love it or hate it, is definitely interesting. I'm a little surprised they haven't gone deeper into it, but we do have some locations coming up there.
Right, for sure. Let's talk about cards here real quick. Days of Future Past, the cards that are going to be released. Kitty Pryde. All right, so 1 cost, 2 power. Returning Kitty Pryde to your hand will increase her power by 2.
1 cost, it's going to be hard to build that up. I mean, you think how hard you and I have tried to boost Deadpool. But, she's another one that you put the Hulkbuster armor on her, just like in the comics. I say that snarkily, but what part of the fun of this is combining things that don't get combined in the comics. Yeah. Like, I played a game of HeroClix today. My team included the animated version of Darkseid, voiced by Weird Al Yankovic, and Volstagg.
What?
Yeah. Oh, and Frogman and Goldballs, too. So, yeah, I mean, I joke about it, but it's fun to mix and match these things. But, I mean, yeah, there are some cards that Kitty Pryde would work very well with in some locations, too. So,
right, yeah, I put down here, I put Falcon. He goes and grabs all the 1-cost characters that are at that actually, I think on the board. He goes and grabs all of them, brings them back into your hand. So, yeah, that's going to work. Beast, which I need to get at some point. Beast, I think, returns the cards back to your hand in that location, and it takes their power. He's a good one to
put in your collector deck if you get him.
Oh, I'd love to. Does he bring the energy down to 0? Is that what he does?
Brings it down 1.
Brings it down 1. Okay, so brings them back in. Luke's bar would be a fun one to throw her out, bring her back, throw her out, bring her back, throw her out, bring her back, and then lay her out somewhere. She's going to be a 1 cost for pretty decent size.
Not a home run every time, but definitely something you can have a little fun working with.
Next up is Master Mold, a 2 cost, 2 power. Playing Master Mold adds 2 Sentinels to your opponent's hand. Yeah, I wrote out here Ronan, Wong. You're going to fill that hand right up. So that person may not be able to draw maybe next turn. I don't know. That's about the only advantage you kind of have. And plus, in order to get rid of that Sentinel, they have to lay that Sentinel out and get a Sentinel back in their hand. Which is going to be funny because, this person may not ever be, unless they're playing 2 cards at the same time, which they should be able to do that at some point. If they got a maximum size hand and they are trying to lay this card out, they have to get rid of it and then get it back into their hand when the Sentinel calls in one. So I thought about this one. I was like, why would I want to add it to my opponent's hand? And now that I'm thinking about it, like, okay, well, basically they're just never going to draw cards if I can get the combo to work right. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Did you see this one coming?
I mean, she's got a name that just...
She's got a name that's going to be fun to see how they fit it on the card.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't read much with her. Maybe from the Deadpool movies, people like her, but right. It's just a character that the name is the main attraction. But I was looking at the power set. If another card is played at the same location, both that card and this card are destroyed. So it works out with a destroy deck.
3 cost, 4 powers. Once played, if another card is played at the same location, does that mean that it has to happen?
I was thinking it had to be one of your cards, but maybe it's the opponent's card.
I don't know. Well, I want to have to see it in action now, because it just says if another card is played at the same location. It doesn't say if you play another card. It just says if another card is played at the same location. So I think it probably includes the opponent as well. I don't know if it also means like you lay that card down and then it's just a ticking time bomb until somebody else plays another card.
And I wonder if Professor X would shut her down. I would assume.
I'm guessing so. Nobody gets destroyed. Nothing happens usually.
Yeah,
it may be.
It would seem like if you played it and somebody else had already turned theirs over, it wouldn't trigger.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how she works out. Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which, by the way, was Master Mold part of Days of Future Past? I don't think.
Yes.
I don't think. Was he? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
How about?
Yeah, because he was churning out the Sentinels. Of course, when I think of Master Mold, I think I assume he was. I guess it's been a while since I read it, but I mean, Sentinels were huge.
I remember it was just a small 2-issue story. So I will have to look that up, but I don't recall Negasonic Teenage Warhead being part of it.
No, she wasn't. But that's to get those Deadpool fans in there.
Right.
It's like with HeroClix a lot of times, they would have like a subset. Like I remember there was a Thor centric set. Well, if you weren't into Thor, you still needed to get this one because the Runaways were finally in it. So it's good to throw a little something else in there, and it's still X-Men related. Maybe if you're not into Days of Future Past, but you like ironically named, overnamed superheroes. I mean, they did in the Quantum Realm season, they were all tied to the movie, but those characters aren't as tied together in the comics. So even though they were all linked to the movie, it's actually a pretty broad spectrum in the comics. And this is tied a little bit to Days of Future Past. When I think of Master Mold, I think of the season 1 finale of the X-Men animated series.
Oh, what happens there?
Oh, that's after the 2-parter with Days of Future Past and Bishop, because it was the 90s.
Right.
But it's Bishop thought he altered the past and he stopped one assassination, but he failed to prevent the future where the Sentinels took over. And that's when Magneto goes after Master Mold and the Sentinels. That's just an excellent episode.
Good stuff.
That's the high point of the series for me. And yeah, Master Mold's in it. So,
nice. Well, Days of Future Past. I think that's another one for the source material comic. I don't think we've read that and talked about it. I seriously don't think we have. I'm going to have to go back in the archive and look just to make sure. But
my first exposure to it, and if you wanted to expand it or if you did need to do a sequel, is Days of Future Present.
Yes. Okay. I've heard of that. That was one that took place in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was through Fantastic Four, X Factor, X-Men, and yeah, I think it was New Mutants. But I remember I just got part 4 of it randomly, but it was an Art Adams cover.
Oh, beautiful.
I think Art Adams did the interiors too. So yeah, that was one of the first just straight up X-Men comics I got.
I like that. I like hearing about it. Days of Future Present, just pulling it up here.
And I've picked up a couple of the issues. I know there's like a nice big thick trade hardcover based on that has some other stuff, but I think I got the Fantastic Four and X Factor annuals I've gotten out of dollar bins. So
1990 Fantastic Four, X Factor, New Mutants, and Uncanny X-Men. There
you go. So I've got 3 of the 4 issues. And I'm sure it's out there on Marvel Unlimited. It might be a fun one to either pair with Days of Future Past or an Unspoken Issues.
Oh yeah, that would be a great Unspoken Issues. Great idea. All right, next up, final card supposed to be releasing Nimrod.
That's the premium.
Yeah, Nimrod, 5 cost, 5 power. Fought against him plenty of times so far.
Oh yeah,
we're in this new season, and Nimrod decks are showing up everywhere. 5 cost, 5 power. If this card is destroyed, a copy will get added to each other location. So I wrote down Arnim Zola, which I mean,
oh yeah.
What would that do? I mean, he gets destroyed, and
you basically have
3 Nimrods at that point.
2 Nimrods at 2 locations.
2 or I think you would have 2.
Well, let's.
No, you're right.
Nimrod,
you're right.
Say you play Nimrod in the middle location, so Zola will destroy him, and then you'll get a Nimrod at the left and a Nimrod at the right, and then Zola will clone one at the left and at the right.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm all right there. Venom would be a good one, which I've seen Venom used on him already. Death's Domain location, wherever you play Whenever you play a card there, it automatically gets destroyed.
Or the
Perfect
Altar
for
of
that.
Death.
Oh my goodness. Get that and get some energy as well.
Play him on there, and then your last turn, you got eight power to add to your Nimrods.
Oh my goodness. It'd be rough. But yeah, the premium card, I've definitely faced him quite a bit here. I think most of what I'm seeing, he's definitely perfect for destruction decks. That's really what I was seeing. So, all right, let's hit locations. Locations. Orcus Forge, which never even heard of Orcus Forge.
That is from House of X and Powers of X. So that's Orcus is kind of the entity that sprung up in response to, I don't know how familiar are with the new status quo, but the X-Men established Krakoa as a mutant nation, and mutants are a major world power, and Orcus is, kind of the folks, the anti-mutant folks, or the folks who are worried about mutants kind of up in their game. It's a lot of the folks from the alphabet soup of the Marvel Universe, SHIELD, AIM, Sword, things like that, and they'll tell you they don't hate mutants. They're not bigots. They're just trying to build up an alternative to the mutants. And the Orcus Forge orbits the sun, and it's actually called a mother mold, which is like even bigger than Master Mold, but it's pumping out Sentinels.
Okay, so playing a card here adds a Sentinel card to your hand. Perfect. That definitely goes hand in hand with the description that you just gave.
Yeah. Collector, Quinjet. Again, Devil Dinosaur. Whenever I think about adding cards to your hand, I think Devil Dinosaur. That's why you see a lot of Sentinels in Devil Dinosaur decks.
For sure.
So when Orcus Forge is featured, I'll probably break out my Devil Dino Collector Quinjet deck again.
I assume you want to use this kind of sparingly, because, again, you're going to end up like we were talking with a Master Mold situation where you could have Sentinel after Sentinel in your hand and you cannot get rid of them. So if you play 4 cards on that location, you're going to have 4 Sentinels in your hand, and that might not be too upsetting. But, yeah, I mean, if you can...
I mean, I've seen people play multiple Sentinels and scatter them through there, usually when they're trying to build up that hand. So
Right. Collector's perfect for that, and just like you said...
Yep.
The next one is Asteroid M. I like hearing this. If you play a 3 or 4 cost card, it will move here. So I wrote down Green Goblin and then using it with a move deck. Vulture.
Mm-hmm.
Vulture would be good. And then Crossbones. The only reason I put Crossbones down here is because you could play him at a place that supposedly if you're losing at Asteroid M, you wouldn't be able to play Crossbones normally. But if you were winning at another location, you might be able to get him to move over there a little bit easier. So, I mean, that's an interesting mechanic for a location for sure.
And another good one to play with that when that's the feature one will be Miles Morales.
Oh yeah, because
drops from a 4 cost to a 1 if a card moves.
Right
so
down to a 1.
You or your opponent are going to be moving 1. So
throw Craven down there. And watch him get pumped up. So
that's a good one. Yeah, and that's your or your opponent's. Yeah, absolutely. Craven will be great on there.
I can't wait for that one to roll around. All right,
I'll just break out my move deck, which is codenamed Portals.
Oh, okay, I like it.
From the end game scene.
Okay, cool. Next location is Krakoa. On turn 5, this location automatically plays cards for both players. In other words, ego, but just for 1 turn. I'm
fine with that.
1 turn's fine, yeah. Ego showing up at the beginning and just be like, oh, whatever he does, whatever he moans.
Yeah, I'm not bragging clearly about my skill as a snap player, but I feel like I'm better than Ego.
Yeah. So Krakoa, which is pretty neat because, Ego is a large planet. Krakoa is just an island. All he can do is just, all Krakoa can do is just do one turn. So that makes sense.
Nimrod plays a big role in the current X-Men setup. So he's a nice bridge between Days of Future Past and the Krakoa era.
Okay.
So that makes it work even better. I mean, the future has been a big theme in the setup of that. So even though Krakoa in the current era weren't directly tied to Days of Future Past, it thematically works with it very well.
Yeah, I have no answers for what we want Krakoa to do. What are you thinking? Anything?
I guess
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Rhino.
And magic, you almost always have to play magic on turn 5. That could be interesting.
Right.
I guess you just don't for your deck there, you just don't want a particularly damaging or specialized 5 cost card. Like, I mean, maybe, Red Skull has a little bit of drawback. He gives +2 to everything, so you might not want Krakoa deciding where you drop Red Skull.
True.
Hobgoblin, I could just see Krakoa pulling an ego and playing Hobgoblin when your opponent's already got 4 people on the other location.
Right.
Professor X would be one thematically that works with Krakoa, but I wouldn't trust an ego level decision dropping Professor X on a location.
Right. I thought it was going to be at that location, but it doesn't say that. It just says this location automatically plays cards for both players. So
Arrow, I don't know if you'd want Arrow in a deck if you've got a good chance of encountering Krakoa.
It'd be interesting to see if anybody comes up.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Because wherever Krakoa puts him, you can move him.
Yeah, he goes anywhere.
Yeah.
You can have him go
Doc Ock, I don't think you'd want Krakoa tossing Doc Ock out there. I think with that, you just are careful about what you're putting in for your level 5. Of course, there's nothing that says Krakoa is only going to play 5s, but I still don't think I'd want Professor X in a
I agree.
deck if I thought I was going to have Krakoa.
Right.
At least until I see if Krakoa is a better strategist than Ego.
That'd be nice. I can tell you that if I've got Doc Ock in a deck, I don't apparently care if I'm going to win or lose. I just want to see it happen. I'm hoping for the Riggedy Bridge, maybe, but that's about it. That is about it. If I got Doc Ock in there, yeah, that's the only thing. At this point, when we do a show next season, maybe we'll notice somebody has actually come up with a good strategy for Krakoa that we're just not thinking of right now. That could very well happen.
That's the only one that comes up to me right now is that, usually, sometimes I have more than one 5-cost card, but I don't always put more than one 5-cost, but Vision would probably be my guy there.
Right.
But, then it could decide like, hey, let's put the Watcher out here. You've been holding on to him long enough. I like the Watcher, but, not because I want to play him.
Correct. Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.